Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to jump into the monster manual and look at one of my favorite dungeon monsters, the Slug. I like this guy, and there's a couple of reasons why. First off, let's go through his stats. He's a giant slug. He's uncommon. Number appearing is 1. Armor class is only 8. 6-inch movement, so he's slow. 12 hit dice, formidable. Attacks 1, damage 1 to 12. That's for his bite. He can spit acid, and we'll take a look below. He's got special defenses, we'll see below. Standard magical resistance. He has non-intelligent. His alignment is neutral, and he's large. Giant slugs dwell away from light, preferring the depths of dungeons and similar places. Giant slugs are able to eat substances like wood or burrow through very hard earth, using their rasp-like tongues. Although they are of great bulk, giant slugs are able to squeeze through very narrow or low openings, for they have no bones to prohibit such alteration of shape. Although they're able to bite with effect, the major weapon of this creature is a highly corrosive acid saliva, which they're able to spit with considerable accuracy at great distances. Normal range is 6 inches, so 60 feet, with a basic 50% chance of striking their target. So 60 feet equals a 50% chance to hit. It's the hit chance to increase or is decreased for every 10 feet past that. So at 70 feet, it would be 40%, et cetera, et cetera. For every 10 feet less, the range increases by 10%. So if you were only 30 feet away, that would be plus 30%. It would have an 80% chance to hit you with this saliva. It's always inaccurate with its first attack. There's only a 10% chance of hitting its target on the first spitting of acid. Once the range is then determined, second and following attacks are normal probabilities. As they are of great size, these creatures can sometimes be caught in a narrow corridor where they are unable to turn, and if they are attacked from behind, they can often be slain without loss to the attackers. Because of their size and structure, these beasts are not affected by blunt weapons, so they must be attacked by sharp-edged ones or magically. And that's got to be a typo there. I don't know magically what. Magically enchanted weapons, but I don't know if that means blunt weapons that are magical can affect them. They have thick rubbery hide, and their tremendous power allows them to break down doors with ease. In description, the giant slugs are pale gray with their underbellies are dead white. So this guy doesn't seem like much until you start thinking about it. It's 6-inch movement rates at 60 feet per round. It's slow. That's a human in plate mail. In non-magical plate mail, that's how fast they move. So your average party is going to be able to run away from this guy. The saliva spit becomes a problem. But there's a little problem with the write-up. It doesn't tell us what the saliva spit damage is. Since it says it's its main weapon in the write-up here, I give the saliva damages double the attack. So instead of 1 to 12, I give the saliva 2 to 24. I don't give a saving throw against the saliva if you've been hit. As far as this inaccuracy on the very first spit, why? That never made sense to me. I've removed that entirely. When they see you, if they spit, they have the percentage chance. And I do make it a percentage chance. It's one of the few mouth weapons, spit weapons, breath weapons, whatever you want to call it, that actually has a percentage chance of hitting or missing. I kind of like that, and I have used that for many, many years. This can be an interesting, even somewhat low-level encounter, even if the party is only 2nd or 3rd level. It's a great way to herd a party into an area you want them to go, or to keep them away from an area you don't want them to go. If you have a giant slug that's hanging around in front of this door, for whatever reason it's in the corridor leading to the door, and your party can't get past it, and they can't outfight it, it's a good way to keep your party from going to that door until they're a little bit stronger. It also gets your party kind of focused on something to do. They want a way to beat this giant slug. They're going to go ahead and try to get magic items or think of tactics that will let them to do that. So it's a great party builder early, I have found. I've used giant slugs for a very long time. They're one of my favorites. The other thing about the giant slug being unable to turn in a corridor, and by the way, if ever there was a monster that was designed for use in a dungeon, it's got to be the giant slug, even though the depiction here kind of shows it outdoors. I found them best in dungeons. I had a situation where the party was being pursued by a giant slug. They had been in this dungeon for quite some time now and knew the layout fairly well, and they'd drawn an accurate map of it. So they realized that if they drew the giant slug down one of the corridors, they'd be able to run around behind it where it couldn't turn, and they could attack it from behind, and they could kill it without it being able to attack them in return. That was a fabulous bit of role playing on my players' parts, and I rewarded them very well for thinking of doing that. Even though the description talks about it, that's not something that I had really read to the players or that they were really that honed in on. They came up with this on their own from the description of how I had the creature reacting. So I thought that was pretty neat that they did think of it. So we actually had a situation where the party did trap it in a narrow area and they did attack it from behind. I rule that all blunt weapons, magical or otherwise, do not harm the giant slug. Since the description doesn't really call out that blunt weapons can hurt it, I don't let the blunt weapon hit it. If a player were to squawk so much about it, I would probably let the blunt weapon do whatever its magical bonus was. So if it was a +3 Warhammer, I would let the +3 Warhammer do 3 points of damage. It's just how I rule it at my table. I just found that I like to give the creature its defenses because honestly, it's going to need them. Once the party feels they can handle this, they're probably right and they can handle it. So I want to give the slug a little bit of help in that regard. So the accuracy of the spit, these are really good if the party opens a door and there's one on the other side and it's 10 feet away. You're in a situation where it's going to hit with the spit. And it's probably going to be the first thing it does. So you're going to be able to have the door open and then suddenly 2 to 24 points of spit damage, no save for half, surprise. And it's a good way to kind of peel off some hit points for your party and make them more cautious all in one shot. So I've always that's a fun one to do. It's not something I want to do a lot because it's going to discourage players, but it's still a fun one to do. Also, having a giant slug or a mated pair, even at medium to high levels, can be a bit of a challenge because of the acid spit. If you have 2 of these things, 2 of them spitting with fair accuracy for 2 to 24 points of damage is going to kind of slow your party down a little bit, and they're going to have to expend some resources taking this out, even if the party is 8th or 10th level. There's still going to be a lot of hit points on this guy. At 12 hit dice on 8-siders back in the day, you're looking at about 60 hit points on this guy. That's a lot to whittle down unless you have really strong characters out there. So it can still be a good challenge all the way up to 8th, 9th level. But that's all I've got to say about giant slugs. In my opinion, one of the definitive dungeon monsters in the monster manual, and it's one of the things I love about it. Let me know what you've done with giant slugs. Have you encountered them? Have you had some interesting stuff happen? Let me know what other creatures you would like me to take a look at in the channel. I'm always open to suggestions, so go ahead and leave them in the comments, and we'll see what comes. Also, please like the video if you did like it. Tell your friends. Let's keep the channel growing through subscriptions. I really appreciate everybody that has joined. We slowed a little bit with the summer, but I have every faith we'll come back now that it's heading into the school year. Also, please remember the Patreon. I'm still trying to grow the channel that way, but that's all I've got for today. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on page 121.